Hello, everyone. My guest today is Anda Gunska. She's the CEO and co-founder of Knotch, the leading independent provider of real-time intelligence for marketers. Founded in 2013, Knotch has been recognized as one of the most innovative marketing technologies in the world as it seeks to change the way global brands engage and understand their audience. Anda, are you ready to take us to the top?
I'm so ready.
All right. Tell us about the company. What do you guys do and how do you make money?
So we help brands understand the impact of their digital marketing. We started off specializing in content marketing because as a new category, there weren't a lot of solutions out there to help marketers make sense of ROI. And we make money because we work directly with brands and we try to help them as much as possible to get unbiased data that sits across all of their different partners, whether it's publishers, agencies, and other distribution channels.
Just to be clear, though, are you a pure play SaaS model?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And give me a general sense. I don't want to talk about, every customer cohort, but on average, what's a customer pay per month for this, would you say?
So we're pretty transparent with all of this. We have three different buckets. We have a bucket for measuring owned and operated channels that sits between 150 and 250K a year. We have a second bucket of measuring paid channels that sits between 200 and 350K a year. And then we have an enterprise level deal, which can honestly go up to $1 million.
Okay. So just again, so we don't have to break down every single one. Give me an average. Would you say the average contract is called $250,000 per year for you, would you say?
It's around 300K.
Around 300K. And are they typically engaging with just one of those products you just mentioned, or are they, buying multiple together?
They start with one and they end up being enterprise level customers.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That's great. Okay. And put all this on a timeline for me. When did you launch the company?
So we launched a company about 4.5 years ago, but when we launched it, it was a consumer-facing kind of data-focused company, and it ended up becoming a data-focused, slight consumer aspect to it. So, as most startups, we ended up pivoting a lot and trying to find our way and responding to the market, and we found that enterprise SaaS was the best way to go to market.
Enterprise SaaS is a good space to be in. Now, how many customers have you scaled to over the last 4 years?
So we're at around 20 big paying customers at the moment, and we have a lot more in the pipeline. I would say the biggest conversion of the pipeline has happened in two tranches, probably the first one about a year ago and the second one about 3-4 months ago.
And what were those inflection points?
Well, the inflection points were one, raising our initial funding to hire a sales team to build the pipeline to, take the leads through the pipeline. So that was, I would say, the second inflection point. The first one was really just me getting our first 2 to 3 big customers and trying to figure out how do you build processes around that and how do you ensure customer success.
Yep. Now, how much have you raised to date total?
14
million. Okay, very good. And all equity, or is there debt built in there?
No, all equity.
All equity. Now, if I take 20 customers times that, call it I guess you said $300,000 first year ACV, that puts you right now at about a $6 million run rate. Is that fairly accurate?
We're in the range, yeah.
Okay, and talk to me about growth. So if you're in that range today, where were you at about a year ago?
So we've tripled growth year on year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we're pushing for an even more aggressive growth rate at the moment.
That's great. So that would mean about a year ago you were doing maybe a 2 million run rate. You're now 3x that up to 6. That's incredible. Has most of that growth come from expansion or adding new customers altogether?
It's both, actually. I would say about 60% of it has been from new customers just by virtue of being a new company, but about 40% of that has come from upsells and cross-sells.
That's an incredible kind of expansion revenue rate, across the base. I want to dive more into how you're doing that, but let's start at the number, right? So net revenue retention annually, how high above 100 are you?
Oh, we have not had any churn.
So you've had no revenue churn, even downgrades?
No.
Okay, so the net revenue retention, if you have about 40% expansion, would be about 140% year on year. Is that right?
Yes, negative churn and whatnot. Yes.
So negative churn or net revenue retention, 140%. Let's dive into how you're doing this. So when you are expanding these accounts, what are the axes you're using? Is it additional features, additional seats, additional usage? What is it?
It's a great question. So as I said, we usually start with one license and then we build into an enterprise level license. So imagine inside of a bank, you have a business unit, let's say the credit cards unit. We start with a paid license at $250. Then we add an owned license for $150. Then we have a couple of other products.
You mean owned license, like owned content or owned marketing?
Owned content, yeah. Then we have a couple of other adjacent products that are really helpful for marketers around competitive intelligence and benchmarking, as well as a different product for planning. And so we kind of build up to an enterprise level deal inside of a business unit, and then we cross-sell with other business units. So we could go from credit cards to auto loans to student loans, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And when you have no churn, if you extrapolate to get to LTV, the numbers get huge, right? So you obviously don't do that, right? Because you want to stay.
I've been assuming 10% churn just to kind of come up with an LTV.
Yes.
So I started doing CAC to LTV. Yeah.
So that's what I was going to ask you, right? Okay. So you use 10%. So what do you assume lifetime value is in terms of dollars on these accounts typically?
We assume it's between 2.5 to 3 million at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. And again, it's really back of the napkin. It's very difficult to think about, but it does help you think about what you can spend on CAC. So what are you spending to acquire these customers?
So right now it's pretty crazy because we're super lean. So we're spending between 45 and 50K.
Okay. To get a $300,000 first year ACV account.
Yes.
That's great. So payback is what, 3 months?
Yeah, it's super fast, and the CAC to LTV is a crazy number.
Yeah, well, it's 50 grand to 3 million is obviously a crazy number.
Exactly.
Walk me through what's the team size today?
So the team size is almost 30 at the moment. We're hiring really fast. I think part of the CAC is gonna go up a little bit because we're a bit understaffed on the sales and marketing front. And the composition is really kind of a third engineering, a third marketing and sales, and a third product operation executive.
Everybody's in New York?
Almost everybody's in New York. We have a couple of people on the engineering front that work remotely. They kind of work remotely and in New York. And then we just hired someone to run West Coast for us. Got
it. And walk me. So I want to go back now since we kind of understand all the numbers and the growth and all that. Your first few customers in 2014. Tell me the story of how you got your first customer.
Yeah. I got a cold email intro to an amazing woman whose name is Beth Comstock, and she is
former GE, right?
Yeah, she's the CMO that all CMOs want to be. And I didn't know that at the time because I didn't know anything about the industry. But she was kind enough to, I guess, just take an intro. She did a bit of research on us and then introduced us to her team. And that's really what kicked it off. We did a really good job of over delivering for that team. And then she started introducing us to other CMOs. She then ended up investing in the company, which was amazing. And so we had a really strong story going into meeting Unilever, JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase has probably been a similarly amazing, customer and situation for us. Kristen Lemkow, who's the CMO there, then started introducing us to other CMOs. So really, we started getting our first few customers by, word of mouth, CMO word of mouth.
So that initial Beth, though, introduction. So by the way, was this when she was still at GE?
Yeah, at the time she was the CMO of GE.
Okay, so GE was your first customer there. How did you get that cold intro, though? That's really the secret sauce here. How did you get that?
Well, I was coming to New York. We were based in Silicon Valley at the time, and I was coming to New York and meeting literally everyone I knew and just asking them, do you know any CMOs? Here's my value prop. Can you help me get to them? I probably met 200 people before I got 5 introductions. And of those 5, only Beth responded.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Okay. And she ended up yeah, that's great. She ended up investing as well, which is nice. How big was your angel? Your first round, your seed round?
So we did an initial round of 4, and then a second round of 10.
Did you do that initial one on the safe, or was it a typical convertible note?
We did the initial one in Silicon Valley on convertible notes, and then the second one was an equity round.
So walk me, that's a big move. Most people say you go to Silicon Valley if you're building a software startup. You went the other way. Why?
Because I felt that in order to be truly empathetic to the people we were selling the product to, we needed to get out of the bubble and get closer to the people we were selling the product to.
And there's a lot of CMOs in New York.
There's CMOs, and if they're not here, they come here all the time. So it makes sense. And to be honest, it's not just about the CMOs because we work with a bunch of people on their teams. We work with their agencies. So it was really important that we were close to them.
Is no churn a bad thing?
It's funny. I've been thinking a lot about this. I think to some extent it's weird with investors almost. It also fucks up a lot of the metrics that you're trying to calculate. So in a way, it's bad on paper because it makes your job harder. But who are we kidding? Of course, it's an amazing thing. It means that we figured out how to do customer success properly and that we have a product that works. So I'm not going to complain about it.
Well, let me position it differently. If nobody's churned, maybe you're too cheap and you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
I feel like we're very expensive.
But nobody's churned.
Nobody's churned. I think if you look at the hashtag competitors, they're not really competitors, but their prices are probably a quarter to half.
Yeah, but you just said they're not really competitors. I mean, my basic question is usually when you look at anyone's cohort data on their churned customers, after 50% will be credit card failure if they're like SMB. Once you get in mid-market and enterprise, a lot of it is just expenses and budgets. It's too expensive. That's why they churn. You've had no churn, so are you leaving money on the table? Have you if you double prices, what do you think would happen?
To be honest, I think that's an area where we do need to rethink some of the pricing and how we capture the value that we bring. The challenge with building software for an emerging category is that there's a lot of stuff that you kind of have to invent and define. And so we have to constantly reconsider what is the value that we bring, what is the ROI that we bring, and are we leaving money on the table? And I'm 100% going through exactly that exercise with our head of sales. And
take me in those conversations, because a lot of people go through this. I mean, how do you run a pricing experiment like this if you decide, let's test a higher price point?
Yeah, and we are constantly thinking about what is the percentage of the media spend that goes towards measurement and analytics. Then we're like, okay, well, how much of that money goes to the agency as a pass-through cost? And then how much of that money then goes to the distribution channel? And if we centralize that, how much money are we saving the brand? And then on top of that, how much money are we kind of making them by just bringing those insights in real time, when the alternative today is that they would get it 3 to 6 months later.
Yeah.
So we're working closely with all of our partners to ask them these questions, because obviously the data isn't, you can't just Google this stuff. So
just to be clear, Anda, if GE is going to spend $100 million in Q4 on ads or something like that, one way they could do it is through an agency. And there's typically what people call an agency tax there, a lot of middlemen. And maybe only 60% of the 100 million goes towards the actual placement, call it 60 million. The other option is to use you. And what you're saying is, well, if we're saving them that 40 million of that agency tax, but we're only billing them 500 grand in ACV, that's the comparison you're doing. Should we be charging more because that's what we're saving them? Is that right?
To some extent. So actually, we're a percentage of that as well. So we are just measurement analytics. We don't actually run the media through any platform. So we're trying really hard to be an independent judge as opposed to kind of be both judge and jury. So I would say if GE spends 100 million, then they would probably end up spending 60 million across, let's say 6 different distribution channels. So they would spend 10 million per distribution channel. At the level of the distribution channel, about 6%, 6 to 8% of that is going to go towards measurement and research, analytics and research. And so that is the tax that we save them.
Which is 600, 800 grand per channel then.
Yeah. So we work directly with the brand and centralize the data collection across all these different distribution channels. And that's a big part of our value add.
Interesting. When the last round of funding, when was it?
The last round of funding was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay, so you're either raising capital right now or you're selling to Adobe. Which one is it?
I can't tell. What I can say is that the rate of growth has been very exciting for everyone in the industry, including investors.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're 3xing year over year, you basically have any option you want. Now, are you cash flow positive right now, or no, you're still burning a little?
Still burning a little, but very little.
Very, very close. Okay. So you really could do anything. If let me ask you this a different way. If a VC came or an investor came and gave you a term sheet at a valuation that you really liked, but another company called Adobe offered you that same valuation to buy the company, which direction would you go?
The VC 100%.
So you want to keep building?
I think there's so much opportunity, especially with Mode being a part of Oracle, Integral Ad Science now being a part of Vista's portfolio. I think there's a lot of opportunity to be that independent source of truth.
Yep.
Across all digital marketing. So yeah.
Very good, Anda. Let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Beth Comstock's book.
She just came out with it, right? It's fairly new.
It's coming out on Monday, actually, which is very exciting. I got to read it before. So yeah, Imagine It Forward. What's the next one?
Imagine It Forward. Very good. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Yes, Jeff Bezos.
Of course. Number 3, is there a favorite online tool you have for building your business?
I really like this product called Nota Bene. It's started by Sam Lessin. It's a really simple app that enables you to take really fast notes and send them to either yourself or your assistant.
What's it called?
Nota, Nota Bene, Bene.
Interesting.
I pronounce it with a Romanian accent.
I like it. It makes it sound like it should be priced more, right? It makes it more expensive. Number 4, how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
About 6.5.
That's good. And what's your situation? Married, single, kiddos?
Why is that a question?
Well, I'll tell you why, because a lot of people, when they listen, they like to go, oh my gosh, she's married with 7 kids and she's building, I can do it too. They get inspired. So what's your situation?
I thought you were going to say that people are going to try to date me.
No.
I'm in an amazing partnership.
Okay, got it. No kids yet?
No kids.
That's great. And do you mind me asking how old you are?
30. I just turned 30 a few days ago.
Congratulations. Very good. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
That I needed to trust my gut.
How so? Were you stuck in corporate or something?
No, but I've been building a company for a while. I was in the VC land before, and then before that I was building NGOs across the world. And you have a lot of moments when you have to make hard decisions with very little data, and you have to just trust your instincts. And
guys,
I would have trusted my instincts more.
Trust your instincts. Knotch, again, launched in 2014, now doing about $6 million in terms of run rate. That's 3x year over year. August 2017, doing only about $2 million. So healthy growth, $14 million raised, 20 enterprise customers that pay called on average 300 grand first year ACV. They haven't churned anything. So net revenue retention annually is about 140%, which is great. Just really working out CAC to LTV stuff. They assume LTV is call it $3-4 million, assuming a 10% churn rate, even though they don't have any churn, which means they could spend call it 50, 60 grand, something like that on CAC. Lots of room to play there as they look at growing their sales team. 30 people right now, based between New York City and other remote location. Again, transparently collect, own, and action the data from your digital content marketing for enterprise brands. Anda, thank you for taking us to the top.